Someone asked me the importance of respect, honor, also shame in Japanese culture. If I can make a video, I'm playful enough that I can try it. I never thought about precisely what I'm gonna say, so it just pops up. I'm here in Japan, this time just a month or so, and it's always kind of like a reverse culture shock, I say. And one of the reasons is that when compared to the US, the attitude, habitual pattern, all those almost like 180 degrees different. And I moved back and forth, and every year I come to Japan, kind of like a checking how I have a, as a person integrated, living in different values, cultures of the people in different parts of the world. And especially this idea of the respect, shame, honor, those things, I feel it. My term usually starts with the harmony because there's Prince Shotoku from maybe 1500, almost 2000 years ago, that the Constitution of 17 clauses, first one is have the harmony as the core. And how that may connect to the importance placed upon honor. One thing I notice is there's a peer pressure of some kind. There's a respect, but for anyone not to disturb the harmony, the wa is Japanese term, there's effort that may not be obvious for many, but if you live in this country, you feel it very delicate, the process. Respecting, and in a way, if you don't meet the expectation to be respectful, you don't do well. So they are cautious. So the shame may be connected to the flip side of the respect or whatever the other word, honor, which may mean high standard. And that's not wrong, in my view. But there's a price to pay. So I have this mixed feeling because the price to pay may not be so high in the US because people may not care much about the honor, shame, or respect for the sake of a pragmatic sense of how you live your life. It's so important. So you cannot push the limit. You may. I'm not saying that's always the case, but one person long time ago mentioned that water is liquid, vapor is vapor, water changed to the steam, and the interaction in the steam is not as often as what it may be the case in water. The Japanese situation is because of the compactness of the space and people living there for a long time. They develop certain protocol, which is to respect with each other, to not disturb, honor, those kind of thing is built in almost. So they don't speak out as much. They just kill the feeling sometimes, even if they want to talk, just for the sake of, for example, me, I don't want to be sticking out to the form of what people want to be. But I may not be the right person, but at the same time, I may be the right person because when I was young, I didn't like it. It's too bureaucratic, too be careful, and I was pretty good at it, to read people, and they may learn how to read people, to be able to process things well. But watching the US TV and carefree attitude, especially California, I was attracted. So that's part of the reason I made a move to the US. So less respect, less shame, less honor system. I shouldn't generalize because everybody, there's so many different type of people, but certainly there's different characteristics. I believe depend based upon the history and the background, whatever happened. And the other point that I can make is the legal issue is very important in the US. They fight for it. In Japan, sometimes there's lots of hidden messages going on and unclear state. So that's positive and negative to go with it. But in general, they take care of themselves, and in the town, the people are gentle and not many crimes. So before the crimes get noticed, people just watch with each other, and some foreigners or new people come in, they just pay attention to it. I worked in Toshiba, a big company. I still remember. The work practice is quite different. It's not as much of an independent responsibility, but collective responsibility. Not to say who is better or worse, but they're more sort of like a community or group oriented as opposed to independent approach. There's pros and cons. So I can just ramble like this to make a point on this occasion. But it's interesting. They have their hurdles to clear when the many people are old age and not many new babies are born, so the whole situation seems to be changing. As much as in the US situation, there are certain new trends seem to be popping up. So I think it's like a tree, depending upon what tree may not be the right example, but given the environment, certain tree may grow up, but not in the other area, depending upon the water, humidity, wind blowing a desert like. So that's like a species, I can think of Darwin, that certain environment creates certain species, and it's all interesting. It's not the fault of who they are, but rather adjusting to the condition. So when you visit Japan, you may appreciate clean environment, respect, courtesy, things like that. And in my case, when I went to the US, I respected their free, spirited way of life to push the limit, as if in Japan you're not to push the limit. There's a harmony being found as important. So maybe there are more I can think of, but that's just a brief impression or the interpretation from my end. There may be other opinions. I get married with a Japanese woman. I get married with an American woman. The Japanese woman was very delicate, and there's an expression in Japan, they walk 3 steps behind man, and I didn't like it. And she was quite proper in the Japanese standard, but after I spent time in the US, I like the free-spirited idea. But the second marriage with American, born in California, Caucasian, and it's kind of like opposite of the first marriage. So I tried 2 versions of marriage, and lots of trial, exploration. It may not work well, but I have learned something. Now I'm single, so I'm trying single too. Does that mean I'm not quite sure what I'm doing? I may be learning something. Maybe my pace of learning is slow, but I'm not arguing with it. Each like environment, each habitual pattern has each protocol, the procedures. And my habitual pattern, perhaps developed from Japan, is find the harmony, not to disrupt too much. But when I worked in the US, I don't know how to explain this. This is more difficult. So it's just having a different country experience would give some edge to see how things can be different or something like that. So that's the interesting part of knowing different countries. And I certainly encourage people to spend time in various countries. And if you don't do that, then you may have more fixated idea, possibly, and that may work. But in this world where the things are exchanged and the people move around, I think the Japanese situation may change, although it seems very slow to change. But new young people and exchanging ideas hopefully create something interesting. Not to say what they have done is right or wrong. I'm not saying that. Like I said, depending on the condition and circumstance, certain habitual pattern may develop. That's just the way it is, but we can stimulate each other instead of just blocking and isolating, but rather look at the picture beyond, hopefully, synthesizing the ideas to make the most of it. More flexible, more people are, less difficulties we may have. So, just a thought. Thank you.